Good morning, good afternoon to all of you who are joining. We have a global audience today, so we're very excited. My name is Carson Robbins. I'm the VP of Business Development and Strategic Accounts here at Screening Eagle, and I am joined by my colleague Hussam, who's going to be helping us really talk about
everyone.
our. Excuse me.
Hello, everyone.
Oh. Excellent. But Hussam is our product manager for Gpr and Proceq tools, and we look forward to doing this quick webinar. It's going to be about 30 to 40 minutes. It's really going to be going through different use cases and so forth. But for those who don't know us, let me please just introduce company. So Screening Eagle, our mission is to protect the built world. Screening Eagle is actually an old company. We are a little over 65 years old. Some of you know us under the brand name of Proceq. A number of years ago, Proceq and Dreamlab merged, and Screening Eagle was started. You see the Swiss flag. We are a Swiss-based company, although we have two offices in the US, Pittsburgh and Austin, and we also have offices throughout Asia. We're a little over 300 people with 9 country offices. And we operate in over 100 countries. Now, the Screening Eagle ecosystem is comprised of, in part, of sensor tools. So sensors in the industrial space and the road space with our Zentner line, concrete, which we're going to be talking about with the GP line, and others are geomatics or subsurface mapping tools and so forth. And the ecosystem is really underpinned by a strong software component. The software and the data, where we make use iPads and the computing power to increase the visualizations, help you with your workflows, to come up with new workflows, as well as being able to use seeing your results in 2D, 3D, and using artificial intelligence to really bring the richness of the data forward. And we have a track record of innovation. So we really started with our sensors, where we really had IoT-ready devices. These are all wireless with really, really good data capture. We use the iPads. We're an iOS first system, where we use the software to really build these kind of intuitive, powerful interfaces to help you leverage not only 2D, 3D, but make sense of your data, leverage cloud computing, and being able to do real-time capture of the data. We talk a lot about workflows, and what we mean here is this notion of digital data management, that using the Screening Eagle inspection tech tools, you're able to embark on new workflows where you can capture data at a distance, have it reviewed at a separate location by experts. You can collaborate and things like that, that really create more teamwork, better collaboration, and faster outputs. And we are on a accelerated path also towards autonomy in the sense of being able to have these sensors be autonomous. Some of you may have seen our subsurface mapping tool being pulled by the Boston Dynamics robot Spot. What we are doing here is looking for ways in which to increase the ways in which we can facilitate the capture of the data and help our end users create richer data sets that give her deeper meaning. And to do that, we're really going to leverage AI. We're going to leverage the computing power, both in the cloud and on the devices, so that all the work can be done either while you're in the field or in a distributed environment. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Hussam. There's going to be a Q&A section on the back. Really welcome to Screening Eagle's presentation on GPs and Proceq. You are now talking to one of the world experts in this, and we're excited for you to be with us on this non-destructive testing journey with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Karsten. Yes, the context is really. I mean, we have to look at that because today, if you look at the history of the concrete, all those nice concrete structures, we've built so many buildings, bridges, tunnels in the past. From the 20th century, even at the end of 19th century, and of course in 21st century, and all those buildings, those assets, structures, they really need now to be inspected. Why? Why do we have those challenges? Unfortunately, first, with the collapse of many assets recently, I mean, we all know, the Italian bridge, a very nice Italian bridge built in the 70s, and the casualties behind fatalities. We have many examples of bridges in US, and recently the Miami Champlain, towers, the cause was likely to be the corrosion. So we have many issues today. Why? Because we have an aging infrastructures and also birth defects, and that's really making troubles today because the more time and the more accident we will see in the future. So it requires thorough inspection. And I think you guys, you're all in the construction industry, contractors, inspectors, engineers, asset owners. I think our awareness now is increasing. We are all aware of that, but we need solutions for it. And that's why we are now presenting the first webinar about imaging, because imaging what's going on inside the concrete, that's really important. Just very simple, thinking. Like the car, you all have a car, and I think how much it costs, to have a car. If you want an excellent condition in the beginning, it's fine. Okay, when it's a new building, tunnel, so we have no problem. The operation can run, it's fine. Repair cost is still, acceptable. But when you start to go in the damage accumulation, it's really dropping exponentially, and conversely, you have the budget increasing. So that's really a problem. And even at this stage, we see many asset owners, they don't really care. They see the surface. Unfortunately, again, sorry to remind you guys, Miami Champlain is an excellent, bad example. People around hanging out and looking at the facade and the surface, rusty rebars, nobody cares. And one day we lose families, kids, women and men. And we cannot accept that, until the failure. We must act here in the aging, phase. Why? Because it costs less. First, the inspection is not something really, it's a service that does not cost so much. And the repair behind will be with an acceptable cost. Here, an example of predictive maintenance, the corrosion was starting, some problem, and then you fix it. You don't have to rebuild the bridge. The bridge is not, did not collapse. You don't have operations stopping for a month. That's fine, that's cool, and we want that. Now, Karsten said that we are the leader actually in the non-destructive testing world. I think many of you know Screen Eagle technologies, also Proceq, which is still the brand of the sensors. And this mix of software and sensors allow us to propose really a wide range of solutions, from the visual assessment to the rebar characterization, through the compressive strength, the corrosion issue, the thickness, the concrete uniformity, and of course, defect detection. That's really important to have all those tools. Ideally, if you want really to be sure, to limit the chance to have problems on your asset, on construction, structure, bridge, building, whatever, you need all those solutions. Today, we will focus on the GPR technology and the eddy current for the imaging, what's going on inside the concrete in terms of reinforcement layout. You all know the concrete, and exactly like human body, you have several symptoms, okay? And when you go to hospital, we check you, and we find some symptoms. But of course, similar symptoms can, have different cause, different disease. But here we just focus on the symptoms, because symptoms, it's really a good indicator, a good clue that something wrong is going on. So you have the surface crack. I mean, everybody knows that, cracks. That's the visual first assessment. You have the rebar layout, to make sure that the layout is correct. You have the strength, compressive strength. You have the correct concrete cover. That's the level of skin and the flesh that you have for the durability or the protection of the rebars within the concrete. And you have, which is very difficult to detect, the internal defects. You need to have the eyes of Superman even more to see what's going on inside the concrete. And today we will focus on the rebar layout and the concrete cover. That's really two very good indicators of the health of the concrete, and imaging solutions are wonderful for that. Let's take, a very simple framework. Okay, civil engineer, contractors, you can say, okay, it's not perfect, it's not exactly reality, but we need that, to make it to make you understand. So let's take this really classic framework with top reinforcement, bottom reinforcement. So you need to know the layout to make sure that you have top and bottom, like a good skeleton, homogeneous skeleton within the concrete. And you need also to know the cover. As I said, that's the level of protection of your steel rebars. And in some cases, you have many retrofit project, or checking against an accident or new standard to make sure the diameter correspond to the right one. Checking that is very important actually throughout the age, the life of the asset. So it can be during the construction phase, in terms of quality control. You cannot rely on the eyes of the control guy, okay, the layout is good. First, you will never check everything. So it's possible that you get back to a piece of concrete, and when it's casted, it's too late, to look at visually directly. So you need those solutions as well to image. Very important, we didn't talk about it so much, but you can also, with imaging solutions, to visualize all those PT ducts, which are really used in offices, office buildings and bridges, to have a larger span, as you know. Bridges, I mean, you have so many bridges in the world, and unfortunately, so many accidents. That's so important to visualize, to see, okay, can my bridge handle more loads in the future? Can my bridge, extend its life? And that's important. This is important to really know the rebar layout within the concrete here. One very nice example is retaining walls and all those shear walls, which are so important for the structure. It's very difficult to guess what's behind in terms of bottom rebars. And as you know, those bottom rebars can be very important to for the resistance of the structure. So here, Gpr solutions, for instance, it's a very good one. Tunnels as well, that's a classic one. You need also to image what's inside, the thickness, and also the rebar layout. So if you focus actually on what I said before, if you want to know the skeleton, what kind of rebars you have, and to define the structure, you need the Gpr technology for sure. That's today the best technology for that. And our solution can run up to 80 centimeters. In combination of the proformeter based on eddy current technology, where you're more shallow, okay, fair enough, up to 18 centimeters, but the precision is really good in terms of estimating the concrete cover and the rebar diameter. And those two solutions are really a good, very good start to, as I said, assess your structure or check it. Let's start with Gpr. Some of you might not know it, good to remind you. So if you know radio wave, that's something also used by the army. no worries. We are certified. We don't disturb the armies in the world. So our GPR works, very, very simply. You just run, scan, and every, rebar metallic object. Metallic objects are very good for GPR because you have 99% of the wave bouncing back, to the sensor, so that you have this hyperbola, very classic one in the world of GPR experts. Conversely, you don't have this in ultrasound. Ultrasound actually is very good for backwall, for air, and also internal defect. So for metallic, you should, use GPR. And for that, we have 3 different sensors. I will explain to you the difference. And here I want to really emphasize something. Now today that you have so many drawings, so many reporting, communication channel, Karsten said it, we believe in computing power. And the best today is to have a tablet and the iPad. As you see now, the computing power of the last iPad is really wonderful. So you need to have access to all your information. And of course, our software is available there to give you the state-of-the-art imaging system, and we are happy to have that, to bring you this solution, because you don't have to go to the office. You really get all information in the field, and you can communicate with your colleagues, all the stakeholders directly. In terms of sensors, we have from a small one, GP88, so GP8800 to GP8000. Those 2 are scanning on one line, okay, one line scan, and you have the big one in terms of productivity and terrific imaging because that's immediate. You have 6 line scans, so you increase your chance to find the object and have a very good image of it. So roughly 25 centimeters width. In terms of frequency, we really simplify that. Our sensor is really wonderful for that. We know that decades ago, people were really working, and we thank those this industry progressing in the last years, last century, but it was really based on the frequency. So if you want to locate a big object very deep, you had to have 1 gigahertz frequency, and then if you want a small object, shallow, you go to 2.6. But we really simplify that with certifying and very efficient step frequency continuous wave, now today widely used globally by our partners are really satisfied with that, because you can really, without thinking about the frequency from 0.2 to 6 gigahertz, you start to collect everything, all objects up to 80 centimeters. Of course, conditions can vary in some cases, but you can go really up to 80 centimeters, where you can really collect big objects, deep and very small object in the shallow layers. That's really wonderful to get a very clean image of reinforced concrete. As a structure engineer, I was really impressed the first time I saw that GPR can really today be more accessible by non-GPR experts like me, because I'm engineer. Many engineers now they start to like it. Our ecosystem works Wi-Fi connection. That's really convenient. No cables. Of course, if you're in a restricted area, nuclear plants, or very noisy, you can still use a cable. It's fine, but cableless, it's really more comfortable. And our app is free. If you want to use, you need a sensor for sure, but you can still download the app today. And I invite you, if you don't know it, to dive into it. It's very intuitive. Very accessible, and you can play with some demo files if you want. So GPR philosophy is always the same. You start with the really raw data view, what we call those hyperbolas I showed you before, and then you go to migrated view, which is a view which is more common for people because you start to see really well the object. Very convenient for non-expert, GPR expert, and you can go up to the 3D view. And then close to the real situation, of course. So now if we get back to our piece of concrete, So basically, you will obtain that in terms of raw data view. And again, today, that's the really best solutions for going deep in terms of rebar layout, really visualize to be reassured that you can find your bottom rebars and also see all the spacing top rebars. And also PT duct as well, you can see very well. So if you take the biggest sensor that we have, 6 line scans, basically it's very simple. You just have to scan and all, so that's an example of reinforced concrete slab or ground slab, where with a mesh, not a mesh, but rebar in both directions. You can really see very well in this plan view, actually. And you can travel, I like to say that you can travel within the thickness of your piece of concrete and start to see the object, this top-down view. And it's very intuitive, you just have to scan. And in terms of data collection, it's very fast, productive. And we have a note again. That's something I really advise for non-GPR experts. You don't have to be an expert. With the AutoGAN, the software, we produce the best settings, fine-tuned for you so that you can have a very clear pictures of your object and you find it. Of course, we have dual view if you like to have the classic line scan, so that's a slice of what you have in the thickness. And here, that's the top-down view. We call it time slice view. And you can, of course, as I said, travel within the thickness of the concrete. So the software really offers in the field, again, all possible views, complementary views, comprehensive views that you really can judge what kind of object that you have. Raw data view, if you like the classic, in terms of hyperbolas to really guess the details. Migrated data view, top-down view that we call the superline scan here for the 6 lines sensors. The dual view, both directions, so that's exactly like this one. Here you get all the objects. So here, for instance, you see a drainage, water drainage channel. You have the 3D view, and we propose augmented reality. And it's not a gadget, it's really important because we listen to the market, and also we are perfectly aware in many assets structure, you need to trigger discussion. You need to prove something, you need to locate, to show something, to point out. And augmented reality is really a useful tool for that. And again, in the field, you want to share with someone directly. You want to open a PDF drawing to say, oh, is that the rebars that I locate? Yes, let's see the drawing. That's your computer. It's with you. That's your iPad. Now, to summarize on the GPR, so as I said, the first one, the GP 8800, has an excellent resolution and it's very adapted for small and congested areas and ideal for curved surfaces. Now, if you work in a tunnel on a long returning wall, I strongly suggest the GP 8000 because it's really ergonomic. In terms of ergonomics, it's ideal for long line scans. 1 kilometer if you want. And for really ultimate productivity, also for beginners, because they can have an image directly, I really suggest the GP 8100 with 6 line scans in one scan. Telescopic mode, of course, you can use it. Now, for some of you, we can say, you know what? I can estimate the concrete cover as well with my GPR. Yes, you're right. I'll give you an example here, 3.9 centimeters. Yes, you're right. In congested areas, even that's the best solution actually. But we have eddy current technology which exists now for decades. With a lot of certification standards. And I strongly suggest you as an engineer, that's the best today solution for concrete cover estimation and diameter, rebar diameter estimation. There is no better solution than that today. And, with many decades, that's something many inspectors, contractors knows. So that's for today the solution, very complementary to GPR. So eddy current, how does it work? It's based on the magnetic induction. So we have coils inside the sensor, which will trigger, a primary magnetic field. The primary magnetic field will trigger, a current inside the rebar, and the rebar will trigger back a secondary magnetic field, which will be, collected by the sensor. And the difference, we will estimate all information about the rebar, the location of the rebar, the concrete cover, and the diameter, as I said. So that's something, not really difficult to understand here with the magnetic induction technology. You have several standards, not going into details. You have several measuring range, but let's go on what you can do with that. So the Profometer, that's our device. It's very good for similar to GPR line scan, where you can really estimate the diameters and concrete cover. So in terms of data, you collect and you start to image it. You can have also the top-down view if you want to scan in both directions, and then to have this really like a drawing, actually, when you see your rebars in both directions. And of course, that must be only top rebars. As I said, it's limited to 18 centimeters. And it's dropping exponentially, the power of the magnetic field. But you have an excellent, if you are normally, it's 5-6 centimeters max with the concrete cover. So that's really good to have a first layout. The signal strength, that's very important. Now I see many non-experts using that because the signal strength really will validate your inspection by, okay, it's homogeneous, there is no metal detection and abnormal metallic object detection. So that's possible to have it here. And of course you have stats. Statistics are so important here to judge, the state of a slab or a wall, especially for a bridge or a parking slab. An example of a column, columns are really important. If we go to Champlain, Miami towers or any office building, especially in those areas, coastal cities where you have corrosion issues, that's really good to check the concrete cover. And of course, the rebar location, indirectly you check it. So unlike GPR for eddy current technology, Profometer, that's very important to be on the midpoint line. So you normally should first locate and make sure that your sensor is aligned on the midpoint line. Why? Because if you're up or down, you will be disturbed by 2 layers of rebars. You need to be on the clean path to really detect the rebar here perpendicular to the line scan. And then you start to obtain, your image, layout, as I said before, on both directions in this column example. Now, imagine that you have big surface. We also, offer the heat map. It's really cool. Why? When you talk with an asset owner or engineering firm, that's an excellent tool, to calculate the repair budget with the red cell. Let's assume that every red cell has a concrete cover below 20 millimeters. As an example, of course, you set the threshold by yourself. You can really estimate after the repair budget and then engage with asset owners, engineers, or contractors to repair that. That's a really cool here, useful feature. So back to summarize here, really Proceq GPR, Profometer using GPR and eddy current technologies are really complementary, because one is really good to image really deep, to give you first, very good layout, but you will never get the precision on the shallow level, like the concrete cover or the diameter estimation. And you need to use the Profometer for that. So both are really complementary. Now, if you want to talk to us, I think you will receive now after the webinar link. If you want to engage with us, we have also, as Carlton said, many headquarters around the world. We like to talk with you, so don't hesitate to contact us. Yep, Karsten, you want to let's start maybe the questions?
I think that was fantastic. So we don't have nobody has typed up any questions, so that I can see so far.
Have one question,
yeah.
Karsten. Yes, someone is asking about the pipes and the conduits. You know, if you can, yes, you can use the Gpr for that. You can use Proceq Gpr as well. I was focusing on the metallic object or like the rebars, but of course the Gpr is a perfect tool to detect any object. Okay, so as I said, PT duct, live wire, or any pipes will be detected, of course, and that's a good also piece of information for the concrete. But structurally speaking, yes, if you focus more on rebars, that was the pitch that I presented before. Yeah.
In a previous webinar, we had questions like, do you need to buy both at the same time? How do you see that, Hussam?
I strongly recommend if you're contractor or inspector, also engineer firms, you must have both for the reasons that I developed before, because you really have the complementary view. If not, you will lose a piece of information. So of course we can offer both. If you contact us, we can arrange that without problem.
Another question we had was, how easy is it to upgrade from one to the next? Meaning, let's say if I already have a Profometer or a Profoscope, how do I, will it be easy for me if I get a GP for me to continue doing my work?
If you have already a GP, of course, you can run it, no problem. But you can, of course, approach us. We can discuss the conditions if you're interested for a eddy current Profometer system, device. That's something. And of course, the other side around, if you have a Profometer, then you're limited to 18 centimeters. Okay, very precise, but you miss, and as I said, in tunnels, retaining wall, you miss all information behind. You must have a GPR device, and I showed you the different use case. You can have the small one, GP 1800, if you're more in congested areas, buildings, and if you really want to have more data and have a very easy tool, you can go up to GP 1100 if you want. But I would say today, GPR technology should be now, we democratize that the last 3 years at Screen Eagle Technologies. Now we see many people, not being PhD in GPR, and they use it fantastically. I mean, and also our GPR experts still like, using our devices, because, if you want to go, you deactivate the automatic support, that we have, you can go deeper and you can play with the data. Data always clean, and you can manage it. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for attending.